Welcome to the Fit 15 podcast show, where you'll find health and fitness inspiration, motivation, and information shared in 15-minute episodes. Tune in while getting a move on to make leading and enjoying the benefits of a healthy lifestyle almost too easy. It's the Fit 15. And now your host, Catherine Basu.
Welcome to the Fit 15 podcast show. I'm your host, Catherine Basu, and my guest today is Mark Minichiello. Those of you who are marathoners and runners getting ready for Boston, get excited because we'll share some tips for running in general and more about some organizations that Mark is involved with in today's episode. But I've split our conversation up into 2 episodes, and tomorrow you will hear more tips for Boston. Last minute tips for Boston to help you prepare for Marathon Monday. So don't miss out on that. Subscribe now so you don't forget to tune back in for that one. Okay, but who is Mark Minichiello? Mark is a runner who started his marathon career as a member of the LA Roadrunners, the official training program of the Los Angeles Marathon. Mark found his passion in marathon running and never looked back. Mark went on to become a senior pace leader and is now the LA Roadrunners program administrator and head coach. Mark is a Boston qualifier, a New York City qualifier, an Abbott World Marathon Majors finisher, an RRCA Endurance and USA Track and Field certified coach. He is the LA Roadrunners program administrator and head coach, where he oversees the largest marathon training program on the West Coast. He is also a board member with the South Bay Runners Club and coaches both track and marathon training sessions.
Well, welcome to the podcast, Mark. I'm really excited to have you as my guest today.
Thank you very much. Truly appreciate being here.
Awesome. Well, I literally ran into you as how we met a few weeks back. So
I know the irony. I tried to recruit you for the run club.
I know. And I really, it's funny. That was my last, I guess it wasn't my last run. That was my last run of anything over 1.5 miles. And then I ended up having the news that I actually did have a stress fracture. So I don't know. You guys are so fast that that's what happened. No.
Well, actually, when we came upon you, I was actually like, "Oh, look, a fast female that can keep our pace and have a nice conversation. I have to recruit her."
Well, I definitely want, that was funny because when I got back, I was really excited to have run into you guys because I've heard about you guys. I told you that I've talked to Cheyne Inman and he's been on the podcast, and I just hadn't gotten around to actually, reaching out and figuring out how to become a member. So we can talk about that as well. But I was all excited to have met you. And then I was like, my foot really isn't feeling that great tonight. I might have to check this out. And so it was kind of a bittersweet, moment of I'm really excited. And then maybe I need to back off from running a little bit. But so you want to tell us a little about the South Bay Runners Club, just for the listeners who are local and could maybe take advantage of that?
Sure. So the South Bay Runners Club was founded approximately 4 years ago. A few local runners. We were actually pace leaders with the LA Marathon.
Okay.
And we were looking for a recovery run on Sundays because our Saturday runs were always up in Santa Monica. So we looked around one day and we said, "Hey, let's start training down in the South Bay because that's where a lot of the PLs were from, pace leaders were from." Then one thing led to another, and we looked around, and suddenly there were 30 of us, and we were like, well, let's start a club.
Yeah.
And that's how we started back in 2015. So the original group started with 7 founding members, and when we officially launched the South Bay Runners Club, we were at about 30, and now we are approximately 400 strong of all levels.
Wow.
So, as you are aware, Cheyne is an Olympic time qualifier with a 2:18 marathon, but we also have race walkers. So, our club is pretty much as diverse as it comes, and that's the culture that we try to promote. If you want to come out and get in shape, we're the club for you.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, even just from our chats on Facebook, you guys have a bunch of different subgroups, right? So,
Yes.
not just the one group too. That's really cool. Do you want to mention any of those just for listeners who might not have thought about reaching out for those reasons yet?
Sure, absolutely. So we originally had the Facebook page, which is the South Bay Runners Club.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we grew, we kind of broke it into subgroups as well. So there's the SBRC Trail and Ultra group. So they basically train on trails and do the 100-mile ultra runs. We have a competitor group, which are the people that tend to be competitive. We also have a small multi athlete group, which is basically for tri members that competing in the Ironman and the triathletes. And we also have the vegetarian group. So they kind of share all their tips and tricks.
Yeah.
And then we have a coach's advice page, which is where the coaches from SBRC post articles that we believe that athletes would find interesting and of value.
Very cool.
So yeah, it's a pretty diverse group. And I tell everyone in the club when people first show up, speed is relative. There's always somebody faster and there's always somebody slower.
Mm-hmm.
We respect all athletes, we support all athletes, and we support the club. And that's kind of the mentality. So it really doesn't matter what your pace is. If you want to come out and run with us or walk with us, there is someone to train with.
I love that because I know, I find as a runner, and I've been a runner more than half my life, more of my life that I haven't been a runner. Just sometimes people find or they think that runners are very exclusive, but that's really not the case, right? I mean, I think you definitely speak to that being a board member of the South Bay Runners Club and a coach.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the culture that we instilled from day one.
Mm-hmm.
We support everyone, and speed is relative.
Hi, friends, it's Catherine. And if you are joining us and only have 15 minutes today and are using the podcast to get in an out and back walk of that length, that sound was your halfway point reminder. You will want to turn around now. All right, back to my conversation with Mark.
Because I can't tell you how many people say I'm fast, and then I can't tell you how many times I say, wow, that person's fast. So it's all in the eye of the beholder.
Right.
So, to a walker, a 13-minute runner is fast.
Mm-hmm.
So really, at the end of the day, it's about effort.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're giving 100% effort, speed doesn't matter. And that's what the club's about. It's about promoting fitness.
I love that.
And we love the camaraderie.
Yeah. No, the running community is so great. And I'm always trying to recruit more people to try out running. Even if it's run walking at first, like you said, just a little running here or there and see what happens.
Absolutely. And I mean, what I love is the transformation because, again,
mm-hmm.
we have the competitive athlete in the club, but we also have the newbie in the club who, I can't tell you, one member was watching us on Facebook for 4 months before he got up the courage to come to a track night.
Yep.
And he's a heavy set person. And what stuck out to me was he said, Mark, it took me 4 months to get the courage up. And I showed up at track. And do you know, everyone at track who greeted me as an athlete. Not once did I feel like I was overweight, which he knows he is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's the difference of the club.
Mm-hmm.
And we support him and we motivate him. And I'm proud to say that, in 10 months, he's down 70 pounds.
Wow. Yep.
So total transformation from someone who never could do a half marathon or even a 5K for that matter.
Yep.
In 10 months, he completed a 5K. He completed a half marathon. He completed a second half marathon, and he completed the LA marathon this past March.
That's amazing. That gives me chills hearing stories like that, because that's why I do what I do. Just, being able to see that, and you never have that happen too many times. It's always so rewarding to be a small part of someone's. Obviously it's that person's journey that they took that first step, like just, even seeing you guys and having it be a few months before they show up. But that's it's really special. It's really cool what you guys have created. So congrats on that.
It truly is. Thank you. And I tell everyone, don't judge my chapter 20 to your chapter 1, because you're just not at chapter 20 yet, but you will be.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. Well, that's really cool, Mark. So I know you have so much knowledge, obviously, to share, but there are a few things I definitely want to make sure listeners get from little pointers you had told me. So you said one of the first things you wanted to talk about was how athletes often train too fast. So could you talk to us about that tip? Because we were just saying that people are worried they're not fast enough, but interesting point, right?
It's the hardest part of training any athlete. And what it is, most athletes run too fast.
Mm-hmm.
You build endurance by running slow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the name of the game. Everyone has speed. What they lack is endurance.
Mm.
And running slow allows the body to transform. The capillaries expand over time. I always tell everyone, think of the 405 in traffic. and that's what it's like when you're running fast. If you're running slow, though, the construction workers can get on the highway and create an additional lane.
Mm.
And then in 6 months, when you need that lane to race, you have an extra lane, which is allowing the blood to flow stronger and faster.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so counterintuitive to train slower, but results don't lie.
Right.
And we see them time and time again. And the other part of that equation is volume.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's volume at a slower pace.
Mm-hmm.
If you think of elites train 120 miles a week. They have the time to do it, which is also a limiting factor for most athletes.
Right.
Okay? But if you're an elite athlete, you get paid to run, which is a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not running a 4-minute mile for 120 miles. They'd kill themselves.
No, for sure.
So they tend to train, if they're a 4:30 marathon runner or a 5-minute marathon runner, they tend to train at a 7-minute pace or a 7:30 pace. Some of them even train at an 8-minute pace.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about logging volume.
Oh, for sure. It's funny. There's someone, I think it was actually Dr. Jason Karp, who I've also had on the podcast, but quoting some Kenyan runners talking about how when they run slow, the whole world can actually, most people, I'm guessing maybe not someone who hasn't been running in a while, but anyone can keep up. But when they run fast, not many people can keep up. But that's like even those elite Kenyan athletes are doing that when they're doing their training. So
it's true. I mean, it really is true. It's a surprise. And it's funny because I often get when new athletes join us for a run,
mm-hmm.
I also get that I often get that at the end of the run, wow, I'm surprised how slow you run.
Sure. Right.
And we all laugh because, it's not like we haven't heard it before.
Mm-hmm.
But we're just looking to log miles.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, there is a day for track night.
Sure.
So we
do
track, and we call that unleashing the beast, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But 80% of your training should be nice and slow,
to
the point where it's like watching paint dry.
Sure.
And it's the biggest complaint that I receive out of my training programs. It's like, Mark, this pace is too slow. But then you fast forward 6 months later and they have a 20-minute PR or for a 30-minute PR, and in some cases even a 42-minute PR, the results don't lie.
Yep. Got to listen to the coach, right?
Yep. There's a saying, if you don't get the results you want, try listening to your coach and doing what he told you the first time.
I like that. I'm gonna have to put that one out there for people. Oh my goodness. Well, even the volume part too. I know one thing that surprised me when I went through a running coaching certification program myself was that even elite milers, I guess I never even thought about this, but just the volume that they put in, right? So you think that a miler is not going to run all these miles every week, but that's just the importance of volume.
Correct. We kind of call it a factor.
Mm-hmm.
So a marathon's 26 miles, 26.2.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just use 25.
Mm-hmm.
You can complete a marathon if you train at 35 miles a week, peak mileage. It's not going to be pretty, but you can do it.
Right.
If you get to 40 to, let's just say 40 to 45, you're in better shape. Still not fantastic, but it's still decent mileage.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now let's go up to 50 miles a week. Now that's a factor of 2. Suddenly now you're starting to get into Boston qualifying volume.
Mm-hmm.
Now get over 60 miles a week. Everything changes. Over 60 miles a week, you have speed, or chances are you should have speed. You certainly have endurance. Now go to 75. So now you're talking essentially a 3 multiplier on a marathon in 1 week. That's a solid athlete. Now that may not be the elite athlete, but if you're married and your wife will divorce you, probably anything over 70 miles, or if you're female, your husband will probably divorce you. Unless you're both triathletes or both marathon runners, then that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I peak at 70 miles a week because my wife has told me at that point, anything over that, she will divorce me. Now, truth be told, I've kind of figured out I can actually add another 20 miles a week by getting up 1 hour earlier in the morning before I have to go to work while she's still sleeping. But that's the difference between your average athlete and an elite. The elite doesn't work for a living, or an elite runs for a living.
Mm-hmm.
Regular people, we have a day job, we have family, we have kids. So time's the limiting factor.
Yeah, I know. We can't. Unfortunately, I wish we could all get paid to run. That would be great.
Yeah, no, isn't that the truth? I wish I could always, but realistically, if you can get over 50 miles a week, you're into Boston qualifying territory. And you know, again, it's just volume.
Mm-hmm.
The more volume you have, the more endurance you have. And as I said, everyone has speed. You can go run a 100-yard dash, and that 100-yard dash is going to be extremely fast. You just can't hold it for a 400 or for a mile.
Mm-hmm.
But once you start logging miles in volume, you'll be able to hold the pace a lot longer than you previously could.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So
I think one tip you were saying that was important too is that, you know, if we're going to go run a marathon, do we have to run the full marathon length before we go out there on race day?
No. Usually, all right, so there's 2 schools of thought here. Typically, you want to be able to run endurance pace for 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can complete 20 or 22 miles in a 3-hour time frame, that's fantastic. Now, if you are and that typically is probably a 9-minute aerobic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you are over a 9-minute aerobic, 20 miles, you'd still want to get 20 miles in, but 20 is probably the max. You don't want to do more than 20.
Sure.
So 3 hours is kind of like if you're an extremely fast runner at an aerobic pace, you might be able to get a 26-mile run in under 3 hours. Mm-hmm. That's an elite runner. Most of us aren't, but we can still get in 22 miles maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's either 3 hours or 20 miles.
I like that tip. Yeah, because we don't think about just the challenge for our bodies of being on our feet for a longer time, right? If we're not an elite athlete, right? So
exactly, and it's time on feet.
Mm-hmm.
So you do want to get you definitely need that 20 miler. And again, if the 20 miler takes you 4 hours, then it's unfortunate, but you still need to do that 20 miler because your body has to feel that strain.
Sure.
From training.
And the mental component too, right? I mean, I always talk about how running is so much a mental game. So just, having the mental confidence that you can go that distance, I think can be helpful, which is why I think some people are tempted to want to run the full 26 if they haven't before, but.
Absolutely. And that's kind of where, when I first started training, I used to say it was 50%, 50%.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, it was like, well, maybe it's 40%, 60%. When mental versus physical.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm a firm believer it's 70% mental and 30% physical.
Sure.
And then on race day, it's 90% mental.
Sure.
No, I mean, it's truly. I never realized until I started, getting more into the coaching aspect. Training is a mental game. You don't want to get up in the morning. You want to make an excuse. You want to cut a corner.
Mm-hmm.
26.2 miles, there are no corners that you can cut. You have to do your homework.
Right. No, that's true. Very true. Have you read Dina Castor's memoir yet, Mark?
My wife has, and I've read parts of it via my wife telling me about it, and I totally relate.
Yep. No, that I read it before, maybe like 2 marathons ago. Anyways, I've been just every time I run, at all, but definitely run a race, I think about her. I have her voice in my mind. And then before I run a marathon, I definitely am going back at my dog-eared pages and making sure I have her on my mind too. And that has totally changed. I mean, I shared that I've been running for a long time. Definitely a much better and stronger runner just from tapping into that mental piece, even on a small level, because I've only read her book maybe a year ago. So it's just very, very new, but important.
Yeah, mental component is probably one of the single biggest parts of training. Because again, everyone has those days you don't want to get out of a warm bed or if it's raining out. And all right, so I coach the LA Road Runners here in LA for the LA Marathon. Mm-hmm. And so there's 1,000 athletes. And we had a 20-mile run this past winter. And the day turned out to be one of those horrendous rainstorms. We were meeting at Dodger Stadium. And I can't tell you how many of my pace leaders were sending me texts. Mark, are we going to cancel? And my response was, if there's no lightning,
right,
and there's no thunder, we're not canceling. Because if they can complete 20 miles in this crap, wind and rain and whatnot, I'm like, they can complete a marathon and they will feel like a badass.
Yeah.
So we did. We held it, and I can't tell you how many people at the end of the training were just on cloud 9, high-fiving, and it's the mental component because they knew that they could complete a marathon because they just ran 20 in what was horrific conditions.
Yeah. It's funny because
mental plays.
Yeah, no, I was going to just share that I grew up on the East Coast, the Northeast, but I've really adapted to our nice California weather. So I could. Normally I would just laugh at people like, you don't want to run in the rain, but now I know that even just rain can be a very traumatic experience if you're not used to it.
Yes, it truly can. And I can say I've run in everything. I've run in 26 degrees. I've run in the snow. You have to do it.
You've been there. Oh, goodness.
You don't know what race day is going to be like. So you have to, we call it embracing the suck. Mm-hmm. You just have to embrace it no matter what happens or what it's like with the weather. Embrace the suck, get it done, do it. Yep. You'll be stronger.
No, it's, I don't miss the Northeast weather, but I will say that there is just something about, like, I remember really vividly, there was a half marathon I was going to run. And luckily the weather actually changed. This was even like 24 hours before the race. It was predicted to be like horrible weather, like horrible winds, rain, and possibly the race would be canceled. So I got all my gear, and I was thinking to myself, what am I doing? Why am I doing this race? But then you get on the start line, and like I said, luckily it was not the best weather, but it didn't end up raining during the race. It was still windy, but you go out there and you're excited being with all these other crazy people that are on the start line with you. And if you get through a tough condition, you finished, and that feeling is very powerful, even though you might not want to get out the door, out of that bed, like you said at the beginning of it. But
yeah, it's true. That's why training with groups hold you accountable.
Yeah.
I tell everyone, nobody wants to run 20 miles alone. So find a partner that, as crazy as you are, and train with a partner. They'll hold you accountable, and you'll hold them accountable.
Hi friends, it's Catherine, and I hope you enjoyed getting these running tips from Mark as much as I did. I had so much fun talking with Mark. I warned him this was going to happen, that we talked for more than 15 minutes. So I'm stopping our conversation here. Tomorrow's episode will cover the Boston Marathon, some more tips for that race specifically, which is happening this coming Monday. So if you are running Boston, you don't want to miss these tips. Mark gave some tips that are even specific to the predicted weather, which hopefully they are wrong about, but just in case they're not wrong, want to make sure you're set up for success. So subscribe now so you don't forget to tune in. Check that out tomorrow. Very grateful to Mark for sharing those tips. If you're going to be in Boston this weekend, let's connect. I will be in town on Saturday and Sunday, mostly hanging out at the expo, checking out the seminars, and then I will also be around cheering you on Marathon Monday, since I won't be able to run with my stress fracture. Sad face, and then a little bit on Tuesday. So if you want to connect, shoot me an email, podcast@fitarmadillo.com. If you're going to be at the pre-race dinner, I'll still be there. I have a 6 p.m. time slot, so if that's something that you're going to be around for, that's another way for us to connect. And I'll also be at the post-race dinner. So lots of opportunities to connect, say hi, get a good luck fist pump or hug, whatever you might need, and hope you have a wonderful Boston and race day on Marathon Monday. Thanks for listening, guys. If you subscribe, I will chat with you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to the Fit 15. For show notes and more, visit fitarmadillo.com/podcast. See you next time.